Thanks for tuning in to Gene and Roger Talk Movies.
Yes.
There's Gene. I'm Roger. Today we are going back into the repertoire of friend of the show, David Lynch.
David
I think we
Lynch,
could
yes.
say that.
Yes, if you like horror, you should know David Lynch for sure.
If you like weird stuff, you should definitely know David Lynch.
Well, I think horror in a general sense is by very definition weird. It should be, because I think horror is two things. We talked about this a lot, but I think it's some alteration of the human form, and it's on some level it should kind of like make you feel very uncomfortable. And this movie accomplishes that, I think, in spades. Although it lacks some of the tropes that I think are common with horror nowadays, like there's the whole slasher genre. I think people think that when they think horror, and this movie a little bit of that, but not really at that at all.
Yeah, the movie we're talking about is 1997's Lost Highway.
Lost Highway, yeah.
Gene, what are your thoughts?
Lost Highway. There are a lot of things going on with Lost Highway. It's like you watch it. It's David Lynch. It's like Mulholland Drive. Is in a way, I think it was like the prequel of Mulholland Drive. But you walk away thinking, what the world did I just watch? Like what? Or you're sitting in the theater, you're at home. It's like, what is going on? And in a way, this movie, I think David Lynch is trying to do a lot of things. I think some things, he's just trying a little bit too hard. And in some parts, this movie becomes farcical, and it just becomes incredibly just beyond silly, and it takes away from the power of the movie. And I think this movie, is very in a way kind of predictive of our modern society, modern political movements. The movie delves into a lot of misogyny, and it touches on I think the incel culture that's out today. That's supposedly, all things are the women's fault. This show gets into that. There's Bill Pullman's the main character. He is doubting his wife. He thinks there's an affair going on, and so he starts to question himself. But he doesn't. I don't think he really ever takes responsibility.
No.
There is a murder, but is there a murder? There's two women. Well, the Bill Pullman character is married, Patricia Arquette, but then does she die? Is there a murder?
Oh yeah, there's a murder.
Yeah, you're right. So she is definitely murdered. So, but then is there a twin? Does she have a twin? Does that come up? And it's just like, again, there's a lot of stuff going on. But does this movie make you feel uncomfortable? It does. So I would recommend Lost Highway. I mean, I think it has a lot of flaws. This movie, when it came out, it was not a commercial success on any means at all. So, and I can see why. The Robert Blake character, there's Robert Blake's in the movie. We won't get into his personal life, but what is that guy? And he has a very interesting character, a character who seems like he has like supernatural powers, but what is his purpose? Where does he come from? And so, but that's David Lynch. Does he explain things to you? Nope. He throws it out there, throws it against the wall, and you just have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. But I like this movie. You should definitely watch it out. If you call yourself a horror fan, you should know David Lynch, and you should know what's going on with his movies, and Lost Highway is one of them for sure.
Was this the first time you had seen Lost Highway?
First time I'd ever seen Lost Highway.
Okay. I like this movie quite a bit. I think it is a good representation of what you expect to see when you watch a David Lynch movie.
Yes, that's it is.
He does surround this movie with a lot of well-known people. Richard Pryor has a brief cameo in this.
One of his last movies, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was definitely his last movie. He's in a mobility scooter and all of this stuff, and you can tell that his voice is getting affected.
Manager of a auto repair shop, and one of the mechanics, who is again one of the major characters in the movie, kind of reports to him.
Yeah. And he brings Jack Nance back, who we of course love from Eraserhead. David Lynch really continued to use that person, Jack Nance, until Jack Nance passed away, which I really appreciate seeing him Gary Busey is in this for
Gary
some random
Busey.
reason. Not full Gary Busey, by the way, but he's
No, his
in this.
minor character, but his role in the movie, him and his wife, is just kind of like makes me think that David Lynch is now, I don't know if he's really paying attention to the details here. But go ahead.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
he's paying a lot of attention to the details here, because what this movie, for those of you that haven't seen it, Gene's kind of touched on it. Bill Pullman and Patricia Arquette are a married couple. He's definitely
There's
thinking that
a lot
there's
of
an issue there.
mistrust going on.
The beginning part of the film, the first act, when it's Bill Pullman and Patricia Arquette, is where most of the horror elements of it are kind of in there. They get this videotape and they're like, "What is this?" And somebody's coming into
Really
our house
interesting. I think a
and
lot of the
showing
horror
this.
comes later.
And then he ends up killing Patricia Arquette,
He does for some reason. It comes out of the blue,
and then
her
ends
body's,
up
and he dismembers her body.
in jail on death row of all places, of course, for this crime. And then suddenly the police officers are checking the cell, and it's a totally different person.
Yeah, it's a young 20-year-old, very handsome young man, and he is in the prison cell where Bill Pullman was.
Right.
And so there's this switch. And so clearly it's not possible that that happens. It's outside the realm of existence. So something else is going on here, Roger. And so
Yes.
what else is going on here?
Yes. So what has happened here is the Bill Pullman character is still in that cell.
Oh, he has to be. Yeah.
What has happened is he's had this complete mental break and is now imagining an entirely different thing. So the
Right.
entire second act and third act are him imagining things and him coming to grips with what he's actually done. Because one of the great lines in this movie, and it's blink and you'll miss it line, is Bill Pullman says, he's talking about video cameras and stuff, and he's like, I don't record anything. I don't like seeing stuff like that because I like to remember things my own way. That sets the tone for what's happening in the second and third acts of this movie.
Yeah, I would say that's a big line. There's no way to miss that line. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just him hallucinating, or him having such a significant mental break that he is now believing he's this other character who is much more sexually virulent and
He's
much
younger,
more,
incredibly handsome young man. Yeah, he's that guy.
much more engaged with the women and stuff, because Bill Pullman was having problems performing with Patricia Arquette, and he
gives that level of distrust.
Right.
There.
And so then he's just reimagined this whole different character who is innocent of all of this stuff, but really it's the end of the film is him basically being electrocuted and dying, which is the Lost Highway part. And so I think this is a really well-constructed film. Many of the reviewers back in the day, and I saw this in the theater when it first came out, but many of the reviewers were like, this movie's incomprehensible. It's not. It's very straightforward if you are really paying attention to what's happening.
He leaves little clues, yes, and you just have to think about it. Was there really a switcheroo in the prison? Of course there wasn't.
Right.
That's still, Bill Pullman is still in there, and he's imagining a different kind of life. Yeah.
And the Robert Blake character, who is my favorite character in this entire
You've
film.
got to love Robert Blake.
He is super creepy.
Love him.
And his dialogue is all great. And there's a couple things he does that are super creepy. But he is the primary catalyst to try to help Bill Pullman recognize and take responsibility for the fact that, yeah, you killed your wife, because he keeps saying he can't remember things and is doing the same thing with the other character that he becomes, he dreams. And that's where Gary Busey and the wife come into play there too, where because they know what he did, they just never tell him. He's got to come to the realization of what he did.
Yeah, they act very sad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just some details, like there's this major criminal element in the movie. You know, his name in the movie is Dick Laurent. And one of the major things that happens at the beginning of the movie, and this movie has kind of like a Groundhog Day element to it. So at the very beginning of the movie, Bill Pullman and his wife are in their house, Which you can have a conversation about their house and the use of colors and light and dark in this movie. The
Yeah,
movie is extremely
exactly.
dark. You know, you look at their house. Their house is just tiny little windows, reminding me of kind of like an art museum, which is really trying to control light, control the amount of light that comes in. You can see that he lives in a world of like of darkness. You know, he's a professional musician. But he,
Sparse
yeah,
furnishings
very
as well.
sparse, very utilitarian. Yeah, almost too sparse. A lot of dark hallways, dark liminal spaces. You know, and so and that's also his musician. He plays saxophone, but because his music is very it's irritating. It's very I can't imagine on any level that you would find his music enjoyable. You know, it's like a modern day jazz music, but it's just very irritating. It's like,
Grating.
yeah, it's grating. And it's just like it reflects, I think that reflects his psyche, you know, it's just
Yes.
the dark, and his music is reflective of him just losing his control of his life. And yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and then the saxophone music as well. When he's hallucinating the other version of him, there's that great
yeah.
scene where he's like, "Hey, you got to turn that music off. I hate this."
Yeah,
Right?
they were in the garage, right? The alter
Mhm.
ego, the very handsome Bull Pullman. He's working on a car, and on the radio plays this really irritating music. He goes up and turns it off. But then another mechanic at the garage says, "I really like that," and he repeats that a few times, you know. And so yeah, the music returns,
Mhm.
you know. So it's his destruction as a human being, really.
Right. And I also like, of course, the cinematography in here is great. The scene
Right.
setups are great. But also pay attention early on with how David Lynch has instructed these actors to deliver their dialogue, which is very stilted and kind of one step off, right? Which I really enjoyed there. So he's kind of pulling you into, when did Bill Pullman start kind of hallucinating all of this stuff? It could have been the moment the movie starts, as far as we know, just because of the way that dialogue plays. Because there's like,
Yeah.
he'll ask Patricia Arquette, "Oh, well, what are you doing tonight?" And then there's a much longer pause than a normal conversation would have. And then she responds very flatly. And then there's another lengthy pause. And then he says, and so it's just this
There's
weird thing
doubt at
like
the
that.
beginning.
Yeah.
She's saying she's going to spend the night at home reading rather than go to the club.
But I think overall, I'm disappointed that this movie was not given a bigger push by the studios. It
Right.
only played in like 200 or something theaters in the United States, which is a surprise to me because I saw it at the now destroyed Polar Theater, and I didn't realize it was such a limited release.
I think it was just 3 weeks.
Yeah,
It
well,
was
it just
actually in the theater. It was really short.
yeah, and just it didn't have a chance to really reach and find an audience because it's a unique film. I mean, it's David Lynch, so of course it's a unique film, but it's pulls you in. This movie is 2 hours and like 10 minutes long,
Yeah.
which did it need to be that long?
No, there's
Probably
probably some
not.
stuff that could have been cut, like the exposition into the Dick Laurent character, where they're
Mhm.
chasing that car through the canyons of Los Angeles and in his supercharged Mercedes or something.
Right.
That whole scene is that could have been cut. I don't think that really does anything to the movie, and I think it actually really distracts from the movie. And I mentioned some parts were ridiculous, and that part is what I'm thinking about because I saw that scene and I'm just like, this is not serious. You know, it really takes away from the rest of the film,
Right. Well, and
in my opinion, of
yeah,
course.
what that scene was trying to do was kind of deepen that hallucination of the character because Bill Pullman had already started the hallucination with the much more younger and more handsome guy and stuff. And so I understand why that's in there,
Yeah.
but
That doesn't. I think it
Gene's
should have been
right.
cut. It
It
should have been
doesn't
cut.
it didn't need to be there. It's kind of a comedic sequence. There's two or three comedic sequences in there
Right.
that kind of reminded me because two of the comedic sequences are these two officers who are trailing the Bill Pullman hallucination,
Right. The
and
Bill
they
Pullman slash really
right
handsome kid. Yeah.
and those two cops reminded me of Last House on the Left, where here's this main narrative, but then we have these bumbling idiot cops also.
Yeah, and they make comments about the
Yeah,
handsome guy because he's
yeah.
sleeping around with. He has a girlfriend. He sleeps with her a lot. And by the way, there's a lot of sex in this movie.
Yes,
And
there
this
is.
movie talks about the pornography, and it just shows pornography as part of the movie. And so,
Mhm.
so that's kind of the shocking part for sure. But again, to touch back on the negative themes of just misogyny, the women are blamed, and women are seen as not really human beings. They're like tools for men's enjoyment.
Mhm.
This is one scene where Patricia Arquette walks into a room, and she's there's in this room there's men all around the periphery, and she goes up at gunpoint
Mhm.
to the Dick Laurent character, and
Yep.
yeah, in front of everybody. And but yeah, that's kind of expected for that's just this thing women do.
Well, and most of all of that stuff, of course, is during the hallucination
Yeah, yeah.
sequences of Bill Pullman's character. So it's understandable because it
The
fits
the
within his
third and fourth
character
act,
of,
yeah.
yeah, everything. I can blame all my troubles on women, or this particular woman anyway. I get it. Patricia Arquette definitely is on full display here in multiple
Yes.
scenes for sure. It's
Yeah, yeah.
quite a
So
quite
be
yeah.
aware of that. So it's coming if you watch the movie.
All I can say is she really believed in David Lynch, this movie, and that character because, yeah, she's nude a lot in this film.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say a lot of great acting in this movie. I really like the Pullman character, the handsome guy. If I didn't write down his name,
Yeah.
I should have written down his
Was
name.
that Baltazar Getty?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But his name in the character in the movie,
Mm,
I'm forgetting it right now. But yeah, I really like this movie. I think you should give it a try. Try to work your way through it.
yeah.
It's just
Well, I think the beginning, Gene, really pulls you in, right? Because what is this videotape? Why is it showing up? What is happening? Right?
right.
There's stuff like that, and then the
And
Robert
how did they get the make? How did they make this videotape?
right, and
Yeah,
then Robert Blake shows up and's like has a really great sequence there where
great
I'm at your house
sequence.
right now. I'm standing in front of you, but I'm at your house right now. Call me.
Call me. Yeah, yeah. And so on an early cell phone, he calls the Robert Blake character, who's standing right in front of him, but he's also at his house.
Yeah.
And he answers,
Yeah.
and it's him because it's the same voice.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
So it brings you in, and then there's this shocking moment where, okay, Bill Pullman's gone now for quite a bit of the rest of the movie, and it's this other guy, and you're following him, and it's really a interesting little way to do it. But I think it pulls you right in. But again, 2 hours and 7 minutes. There's definitely room to cut stuff.
Yeah, for
down.
sure. But yeah, give it a shot. Watch the movie. Throw a comment out there, like I always say. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, and I also will point out for those of you in the music scene, Henry Rollins has a role in this as one of the police guards, which I thought was interesting. Of course, the lead singer of Black Flag.
Yeah, and
then,
also soundtrack of Nine Inch Nails, right?
Right, and then Marilyn Manson and Twiggy Ramirez also make a incredibly brief cameo in this movie. So it's just interesting how David Lynch continues to get an eclectic group of actors together and individuals together to just put a film out. And again, just proof of the unique vision of David Lynch is something we will not get again, of course, because he has passed away.
No.
And it's interesting to watch his movies just because you more than likely haven't seen something like this before.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I think that's good. A lot of today's movies, you it's more of the same, right? So you want to break free of that. Be a rebel in your movie watching experience.
Yeah,
Lost Highway would be a great start for sure.
Yeah, definitely would be.
I was reading reviews of this though. A lot of people were saying that if you want to talk David Lynch, you have to talk about Blue Velvet.
Mhm.
They were saying this maybe the movie's not as good as that one. I haven't seen Blue Velvet.
Oh,
So maybe
Gene.
I'm sure it falls along with some of that, but I have seen Mulholland Drive, and then of course Eraserhead. We reviewed that a little bit ago.
I am actually shocked you have not seen Blue Velvet.
Seen it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on my queue of movies to watch, but I just never get around to watching it.
We'll get to that at some point. You
Yeah.
know. But Gene, what are your thoughts about next week?
Well, Roger, like usual, I haven't really thought ahead to that far ahead. That's
Okay.
too far ahead for right
All
now.
right,
Yeah, my kid's going off to college,
yeah.
my other kids about to get back to school, so it's a lot of things going on. So have a thought about the
Well,
next horror movie, Roger?
this is the beautiful way to end this. One, go ahead and see Lost Highway. It's out
Lost
there
Highway.
pretty much anywhere on streaming. But we will check you next week with an unknown title, but it'll be
Yeah,
good. So
it'll be
thanks for
good.
tuning in. Bye bye.
Bye.